morning, everyone. I am honored to join you all and to discuss how we're moving Baltimore forward with our proposed 2024 budget. I'd like to thank you all for joining us at the fabulous Waxter Center here in Baltimore. As you know, since I've taken office, we focused on equity, creating opportunity, advancing public safety, and investing in our neighborhoods as the hallmark of every piece of policy and every plan I put forward. My goal as mayor is to make the hard choices and strategic investments necessary to solve the systemic problems that have plagued Baltimore for far too long, problems that have been passed down from generation to generation. The fiscal 2024 budget does just that. In this budget, we make the critical investments with no increase to the local tax rate. In this budget, we strive to ensure that every community, especially our older adults and youth, has access to the resources that they need to thrive. To start, we are making record investments into our greatest asset, our youth, our city's children who have so much potential, beginning with a historic investment into our school system as we move into year 2 of the blueprint implementation. We are continuing our investments into recreation and parks, out-of-school programming, and connecting over 7,000 young people with summer jobs. In our continued effort to foster community safety among our youth, we're going to be expanding violence prevention programs to additional schools. This includes hospital-based responses, schools-based intervention, conflict mediation, victim services, and intensive life coaching and counseling. We want our young people to be heard, and we want them to know that we are here for them. We are going to guide our youth towards a productive and safe future through these investments. Beyond our youth, we're going to continue to tackle violent crime and focus on taking guns off the streets in Baltimore, providing resources for communities and anti-violence groups as well. In our city's group violence reduction strategy pilot, as you know, in the West Side, we saw a 33% reduction in non-fatal shootings and homicides. This fiscal budget supports the expansion of GVRS into the Southwest District, followed by the Southern District this year, with a goal of being citywide by mid-2024. My plan also increases resources for the Group Violence Unit in BPD's Criminal Investigation Division. Under this plan, the department will increase staffing levels from this unit from 24 to 60 full-time positions as we continue to roll out GVRS. And for our older adults who have contributed to our community for so long and deserve to live a life full of dignity and respect as they retire and move into the next phase of their life, my plan enhances support for our older adults through more funding for senior centers like the one that we're in today. This budget also creates a standalone office for older adults that will coordinate services and outreach for adults, a partnership with our friends on the City Council. We need to make sure that our older adults are supported and that they get the resources that they need. Make no mistake about it, Baltimore is a city that's undergoing a renaissance, as seen by the strong economic development happening throughout Baltimore. My administration will continue to ensure that this prosperity is shared and invested in communities and all people. We're going to work even harder through this budget to keep our communities clean by increasing funding for DPW, allowing us to add more crews. We'll revitalize our neighborhoods with upgrades to our roads and by tackling more vacant properties. And as a part of my commitment to promoting equity and opportunity for all, my budget proposes the creation of the Mayor's Office of Minority and Women Business Opportunity. This office will merge the Mayor's Office of Minority and Women Business Development with the Minority and Women Business Opportunity Office into a new agency. The office will work to provide equitable access to contracting opportunities and capital while ensuring prompt and fair payment terms and capacity building tools for minority and women-owned businesses in Baltimore. To achieve this goal, the preliminary budget increases for this office are at $3 million. This new team will solely be focused on increasing that participation in local projects and will work diligently to ensure that the city's small and minority women businesses have the resources and support they need to thrive in our city. We are building a better Baltimore, and everyone can be a part of this renaissance as our city grows into the better, next and best version of itself. That's what I and my administration stand for, and that's what we'll continue to do together. Thank you all for having me here, and I look forward to answering any questions that you have today.
You guys hear me?
Yes,
Okay.
and hold
Good
on, I'm
morning.
gonna turn you up a little bit.
How's
There you
that?
go. You good?
Good morning. My first question is about the Kerwin additions. I know you've been abundantly clear about fully funding Kerwin, but obviously the unanticipated $79 million rise is big. We can't take from the city reserve fund every year to close that. What conversations are you having with state lawmakers, if you're having any, about where that money can come from in the future and if the formula is working for Baltimore?
Well, immediately, I have to say that Governor Moore and I were in contact. I know that my colleague in Prince George's County Executive Brooks also was in contact, and what we've been discussing with them and what we've heard is a open and willingness to look at how we can look at the formula, because we know that this impact again on Baltimore City and Prince George's County, the two largely African-American jurisdictions in Baltimore that we had so much discussion about in the beginning of the Kerwin conversation, is not what the governor or anyone expected us to be having at this point. So I am very, very hopeful that we'll be able to work with him and our state lawmakers to look at formula changes or whatever we can do to help us in Baltimore City, our friends in Prince George's County, and some of our other smaller counties who are seeing this impact.
And Director Larson mentioned that, sorry, my Jersey accent jumped out for a second.
It's okay. As long as you don't have on Jets jersey, you're good with me.
No, Giants.
Oh, that's even worse. Come on, Emily.
Director Larson said that the budget will fund about 10 new crews for DPW.
Yep.
Do we anticipate that will bring recycling services back up to weekly?
What we're going to do, and we'll be talking more about that in the future. I know the city administration is probably giving me a stern eye right now. We are going to do, Emily, everything we can do to make sure that we get recycling back up. This is about us putting a big effort into that. This is about putting a big effort to make sure that we don't have to continue to borrow from street cleaning or dumping and all these other parts to put people on trash routes and recycling routes. This is about building the capacity in DPW as we work to making sure that recycling and every other service returns to the way that it was before the pandemic.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Next.
Hey, Mayor. Mr.
Hey,
Mayor,
Melanie.
good morning. I'd like to talk a little bit about the tax incentives. It appeared that, just from the briefing, that the city's hit on the Kerwin was because of, a different formula, the way the formula shook out. And, of course, the luxury apartment development downtown has been massive over the past decade, 12 years. It's brought in higher income people, which changed the formula, I'm sure, from the initial blush. And so Faith said that there's $103 million that the city, eats every year from those tax credits. What are you going to do going forward, possibly, to look at those tax credits that are given to the developers for these developments?
Yeah, I think we said before, and Deputy Mayor Williams will be leading that work, is that we're going to look at all of our tax credits in partnership with the community, with developers, with other folks, to look at what makes sense now for the city of Baltimore. This is something you'll remember as we went through the 10-year fiscal plan some many years ago, right? And we made a lot of tough decisions. We made some changes that were in the best long-term interests of the city, right? Imagine where we would be fiscally if we did not make those decisions in 2012, Bob, I think that was, right? 2014, right? Imagine what we will look like today as a city. We're going to be doing that work again, looking at every single credit, to not just look at the credit itself, look at where it's used, how it's used, so we can be more equitable with those tax credits throughout the city.
Can you describe the shock and awe of that, of the price increase that, the city is on the hook for Kerwin? It's very recent, we understand.
Yes, I will say that, I'm used to Laura and Bob and finance. They typically don't come to me with good news, right? That's not how it works with their department. And because I've been around for quite some time, 79 million is not the 120 that Bob had to once tell me as a council member. But I will say that it was a gut punch because when you're talking about a much smaller increase, it allows us to be thinking in a much bigger way and more innovation, more investments into programs, more expanding programs, allowing agencies to go deeper and try newer things. But when you have to meet that big of a hole in such a small period of time, it just hampers your ability to do that. But we do what we always do, right? We make the tough decisions to make sure that we are meeting the services, that we are doing the things that we need to do. But most importantly, as I've said, we are going to meet this requirement because it's the right thing to do and the only way that we're going to grow into being the best Baltimore, and that's investing in our school system. Because I know as a graduate, I can only imagine, as I've said many times, how many more of my friends would have went to college, how many more of them would still be alive if they had those investments into the schools that allowed them to deal with some of the issues that my classmates were facing, not just throwing them out on the street when they clearly had some deep issues with them and their families, but bringing those young people in. How many lives did we lose in the city and really across the state that young people that didn't reach their full potential because we weren't investing in our schools?
I know you said you're committed to funding Kerwin. You said that you're working with the governor. How long can you sustain this level of increase, though, at its current pace without a change in the funding formula? Not long.
This would mean, as we move out year after year, this would mean tough decisions for the city. And that's why we're looking to work with our partners to figure out solutions that work for not just us, but for other jurisdictions around the state. Mackenzie?
Just a follow-up to that question. Looking at the long-term plan for the city, if this funding formula doesn't change, what does that mean for future investments and plans moving forward if this level sustains itself?
Like I just said, same answer, Mackenzie. It's about we will have to be making tougher decisions, right? We've had bigger issues, bigger budget holes that we had to fill, and that means that we had to alter services and things like that. I don't think that we're going to get to that point. I know that we'll be able to work with our partners to avoid any of those things in the future.
And then looking at public safety, I noticed that the budget is slightly smaller this year than it was last year. 5251.
What budget is slightly smaller?
I'm sorry, BPD's budget.
Okay.
5251, now it's 5249. Looking at where we are in the city and just going off of what happened last night in the Inner Harbor, do you have any ideas as to if last night is sustainable moving forward into the summer? Do you worry about making slight adjustments to BPD's budget given the staffing problems that we know the department already has?
Well, just so we have the facts, right? This budget does not decrease BPD's ability in numbers of police officers. So let's just make sure that we know that, right? And you heard us talking about increasing the positions in the violence unit, in the GVU, which is the unit that is out there working to remove the most violent individuals and groups off the streets of Baltimore. So we're going to continue to do that. Our public safety budget is not just BPD, it's the fire department, it's MONSE, it's other agencies as well. And we're going to continue to have have our investments into public safety, which again is the largest share of the city's budget goes into public safety, right? We have to be reminded of that, but also that we're going to be prepared, right? What we saw last night, and this is conversations, Mackenzie, that I had with the police commissioner for a long time now. I want to make this very clear. We are going to be there to make sure that we do not have those kind of things continue. And for parents and for young people, if you are a parent of a teen, know that if you allow your young person to come downtown or anywhere in the city and they're going to be causing ruckus, if they're going to be fighting, if they're going to be doing those things, they will be held accountable. We're going to continue to provide opportunities, as you know, Mackenzie. This is why we opened up spring break camps just for teens across the city so we can give them productive things to do. BPD, and we have been in conversations with the sheriff's office, with school police, with folks at the state to make sure that we are able to be there for when we have these kind of events and disrupt any kind of behavior that we do not want in the city, because we are not going to allow a small group of young people to outweigh the overwhelming majority of young people who just want to come and be amongst each other and have a good time. But those who are coming to disrupt will be dealt with in the appropriate fashion.
I know that businesses had to close last night in the Inner Harbor.
Yep.
We saw obviously the large police presence, large groups of kids who were down there. Is that acceptable, and do you anticipate this as a sign of what could come in the summer?
So I'll just say the same answer I just gave is the same answer to this question. We are going to be there, and we are going to
How do you
make
prevent
sure.
that from happening, though?
Well, I'll be very clear. We can't prevent young people from gathering, right? What we can do is make sure that we are making sure that folks are following laws, making sure that BPD and our other agencies are there to hold people accountable who are doing the wrong thing. Young people have gathered at the Inner Harbor since the inception of the Inner Harbor, right? That's just the reality. But the other stuff that you see, we will not tolerate that, and I want our young people and our parents to know that. And we're going to be there to support our business in a much deeper way as we have a plan and been working with the other agencies to make sure that that happens. And continuing to provide other opportunities for young people who want to gather in a safe and structured environment. Thank you, everybody.